So welcome everyone to the Women in STEM Internship Fair. So glad to see so many of you joining us this evening. So just quickly, because there are so many of you, for anyone that's not been to a Women in STEM event before, so our aims are to promote, support and connect women in STEM. So we do this through both soft and technical workshops, sort of soft skills and technical workshops. We do networking and socials, and we also provide academic and industry talks as well. So yeah, we're just going to jump pretty much straight in. So we have 9 presenters for you today who are going to tell you a little bit more about their internships. And then we're going to have a quick Q&A afterwards. But if you do have any questions for the specific speaker who's talking, feel free to just message it in the chat and we'll make sure the speaker is asked before we move on to the next person. And then, yeah, we'll just have a quick Q&A for more general questions that you want to ask everybody. And yeah, we've got a great selection of companies for you today. Got a really good mix of some bigger companies and some small startups as well. Yeah, so I think we can just kick off. I'll just start for ease. So I did an internship, I should say I'm a computing science student. I did an internship 2 years ago between my second and my third year at Pixlytics, which is a tiny, it's actually classed as a micro company. So when I've been working there, there's been between 3 to 5 people at all times. So it's a very small company. And I got that internship through the Space Placement and Industry Programme, which actually our secretary's also got an internship through this, which we'll hear about in a second. So this is a really good programme that is funded by the UK Space Agency. And basically they organise internships for space companies all across the UK. And they're in a range of fields, so there's computing science, and then there's physics and engineering. So if you're interested in space, it's really worth checking out. And it's a fairly smooth and easy sort of interview process as well. So at Pixlytics, I've been working as a software engineer intern, and I've basically just been looking at satellite data. So they're an Earth observation company, so they basically use satellite data to track sort of environmental factors, so things like flooding, or they look at certain sort of chemistry of the atmosphere, or what I'm looking at right now is actually marine plastics and how we can track marine plastics with satellite data. So yeah, it's been really, really interesting, and through the SPIN programme, we actually ended up presenting our poster at the UK Space Conference. So it's a really, really good opportunity to network with other students as well, and you also get to go to, well, it was virtual this year, I think, but you also get to go to a induction day as well, so you get to meet all the other companies and all the other interns. So after that, I was invited back for a second year, and I'm now working for them part-time, and I know a lot of interns have done the same thing, so a lot of companies are really looking for students who want to stay there for long term, so it's a really good opportunity to kind of continue to get a job afterwards. Yeah, so I'll just pass on to Jenny now, unless any specific questions. So yeah, Jenny.
Hi, I'm Jenny. So I'm a 4th year computer science and management science student. This summer I took part in the SPIN programme, the same as Sarah, and I interned at Crover. So the year before I interned at Asimla, which was also through the SPIN programme, and this year I interned at Crover. So Crover is a small startup company based in Edinburgh. Crover, they're developing a robot that can swim through grains, and they aim to improve grain storage and to be more efficient and limit the impact of spoilage and infestations, and ultimately avoiding any loss of profit due to grain quality losses. So Crover's robot is like a rock block device that can send and receive short messages from inside the storage units, and it can control the movement and transmit temperature and moisture data. So over my internship, I've been developing a web application to visualize how the data changes inside. I can visualize temperature change, moisture levels, and heat sources. And this will eventually help clients to understand what is happening inside the storage units. I have experience in Python, but everything I learned was brand new. So I had to learn Django framework, Amazon Web Services, and a lot of stuff. So you can come from a lot of different backgrounds and you can learn a lot of new stuff that way. And so over the 2 months, I've been working at home remotely. Everything was remote, team meetings, everything. But we had team meetings, smaller meetings, some one-to-one meetings, and yeah, the communication definitely helped. And yeah, if you have any questions about applications, hit me up. I applied through the SPIN program at Sarah. It was funded by Catapult, and yeah, I applied in April during lockdown when I had like a previous internship cancelled. So I was just looking everywhere for internships, and I did a SPIN program the year before that in Reading, and I quite enjoyed it. So I just reapplied. Um, Usually at the end of the internship, end of September usually, the interns showcase their work at the UK Space Conference in Wales. But unfortunately this year it's going to be done virtually in November. So I'll be doing that. And yeah, there's so many different projects out there from different backgrounds, from maths, physics, engineering, all sorts. You can be a master's student or undergrad first year. And they usually open applications in January all through to May or June. So yeah, it's quite a simple application process. Yeah, I think that's me. But if you have any questions, just message the chat and I'll answer them. Thank you. It's me.
Great, thanks, Jenny. We have had a question asking what was the SPIN application process like. Just basically, they put up a list of all the internships, all the host companies, and a description of the projects. So they put them up all online, and then you can read through them all, and you can apply to as many as you want. But you apply directly for the company you want to work for and like for the project. And then you have to put your CV in and answer a couple of questions. Basically, just the sort of usual questions: why do you want to do it? What skills can you bring? Pretty simple. And then all the host companies get all the applications and they do their own interview process. So I think Jenny was kind of similar, but for me it was a very short process. They because it's a small company, they don't do lots of the big technical interviews and everything. So it was a fairly quick process and it was fairly easy, to be honest. I think, yeah, Jenny, did you have a similar experience?
Yes, it was just so you do the application form, submit your CV, pick which project you want to do, enter your uni email address, and then like after 2 weeks to tell you if the host company will contact you for like an interview, and then that was it. Yeah, it was just like one interview or one like a bit interview, and that's it. So some of you guys have asked about the internships are paid, which is quite good, and I'll send you the link of some information as well.
I should say most of the companies pay about 1,500 a month, because that's what they get funded for from the UK Space Agency. But some of the bigger companies might give you more money, because they have some more funding. But most of the smaller companies pay 1,500 a month.
Yeah, so it's SPIN who pays for it, it's not the company. So like it's fixed usually, and then but afterwards, like Sarah and I were working part-time for the company, so they pay you like their company salary rate. So they're paid, and I've sent you the link for the SPIN program. There's nothing up there right now because they're all closed, but they usually open up in January.
Yeah, it's usually about January, and they just continue to go up. They don't like all go up at once. It's as they get more companies, they go up.
Yeah, so you can be a master's student undergrad first year. There's different projects depending on the host company. So you can be a non-STEM and do some you can do like UI design and stuff like that. So there's a lot of variations, but do have a look. Yeah, there's a lot.
And there was a couple this year as well that were kind of looking at market analysis and things like that as well. So usually it's very STEM focused, but this year there was a couple that weren't. So it is worth looking if you're not STEM or you have kind of interest, like business interest. It's worth looking, especially all the small companies. They like that if you're interested in the sort of business side as well as the STEM side. In terms of experience, I don't think it's particularly necessary. I got my first one. I didn't have any experience other than like an insight week. But I think if you like show you're passionate about, also this depends on the company, but if you show you're passionate about the project or space in general, you should be okay. But it does depend on the project. Some are looking for experience, some don't really mind. It is really sort of company dependent. Okay, I think we'll move. Oh, there's another question. Yes, both Jenny and I got our internships, our first ones, when we were in second year. So they take everyone from every level, whether you're a first year or whether you're a PhD. Obviously, if you have a bit of experience, you might be more likely to get it, but definitely worth applying if you're in the sort of younger years as well. It really depends on the company. To be honest, the company that I worked for were quite set on me when I did it. I was just quite lucky. But I interviewed for another one as well that Jenny got. And it really does depend on the project and what they're looking for. But they generally make it quite clear what exactly they're looking for, like what skills they're looking for. So if you have a look through the project description, it's usually fairly clear what they want. And Rachel, yes, it's mostly aimed at undergraduate students, but I think there is a few postgraduate ones. I might be wrong. Yeah. Okay, I think we'll move on. If you have any more questions, feel free to keep sending them in, but I don't want to take up all the time on this. So next up, we've got Emily Davidson.
Hello, I'm Emily and I did my internship at M&G. They're an investment company and they are in the FTSE 100, so they're quite a big company and they deal with loads and loads of money. I was in the customer technology department, so we were working on finding different ways to use technology to help improve the company's relationships with the clients. So whether it's like making investing money easier, helping the company have a better presence in the media, that kind of thing. And the project I worked on was like based on the company's like presence sort of thing, and they were trying to become greener. So we were doing a project comparing M&G's carbon emissions to their competitors, seeing where they stand and seeing if there's anything they can learn from their competitors and they could do better. So to do this, we looked at open data sources, made loads of graphs, loads of Excel sheets, and did a lot of data analysis there. Some other things I did at the internship, they made us do quite a lot of group presentations in learning things about investments. So we learned quite a key topic in investments, if you know anything, is ESG. And that stands for environmental, social and governance. And it's just as a very special type of bond. So if you invest in an ESG portfolio, you know the money is going to be going to things that benefit the environment, benefit people, that kind of thing. And it's like good investing. And like the returns you get aren't as good in the short term, but in the long term you tend to do get more money. So we did presentations on ESG and we did some about the environment at M&G as well. And quite a lot of that felt like it was just hoop jumping for HR. But I feel like if you do an internship at a big company, there is a lot of competition to get on it in the first place, and there's loads of competition for the grad scheme. So HR want you to do things like that because it's so hard for them to like personally interact with you. It gives them a sense about who you are, how you act, and like what it's like, what you're like working in a team. I feel like I did gain quite a lot from the internship. Like every day pretty much we had talks from different people in the company. So even though I was focused more on technology side, I did learn quite a lot about investments because we had loads of people from different investment areas talking to us. So like diversifications, pensions, investors, all that. So if you've got any questions, I might not be the best person to answer them, but I can have a go. But again, like I did quite a lot of the stuff with technology. I also learned, I thought I'd be like quite a lot of mathematicians going into investments because it seems like quite a lot, but there were like loads of people from different STEM, different areas of STEM. On my team there was 3 interns and it was me who's got a background in mathematics, someone who's got a background in engineering and someone who had a background in physics. And I also learned that doing technology isn't just the coding. It's about thinking about the best way around the problem, thinking about if it's the best way to implement what you're doing. It's a lot of like talking to your team, which I found really useful. Of course, with my internship being this summer, it was all virtual because of the coronavirus. And it did help me become quite close to my team because they were the only ones I was really contacting within the company. I was doing video chats with them 3-4 times a day. But like, I feel like I did miss out on speaking to other people in the company. However, it did give me a good sense of the environment there. M&G is a great company. People stay there for 10 or more years, and that really tells you something, that people want to stay. And if people get bored of what they're doing and they say to HR, hey, I want to leave, HR doesn't want to let go of the talent. So they say, okay, what do you want to do? We'll move you to that area. And so there's quite a lot of space to grow within the company. I feel like everyone there wanted to succeed. It didn't feel really competitive, as I was scared investments place would be. And yeah, gonna answer some of the questions you put in chat. Some of the stuff about ESG. I personally didn't do any of like the investment stuff. I was all on the technology side. We did do a presentation on ESG, just figuring out what it's about. So I can't really answer a lot of questions on that, I'm afraid. And how did I get this experience? I got in contact with them directly. I saw the listing of it on the university career page. It was advertised as applying for loads of things at the time, and this was just one of them. And if you're applying for big companies, honestly, getting an internship is luck-based, because like so many people with exactly the same qualifications apply as you. It's just luck that they pick you out of everyone. I applied for the internship. It was about this time last year. Again, if you want to apply for a big company, you need to do it before Christmas. That's when all the deadlines are. The application process was you send off your CV and fill in a form online. If you tick the boxes, they give you a test to do, a virtual test. It's just like skills based. It's like, can you do the maths, logical sort of things. If you get through that, you do a video interview, and it's just them asking you questions like, what would you do in this situation? One of them I remember is, what would you do if someone came up to you and started yelling at you because the break room was a mess? So it's like testing your skills in certain situations, seeing what you're like working as a team, that kind of thing. And then after that, you get invited to an assessment center, which is when you actually first speak to someone and they get to know you a bit more. Does anyone else have any questions? I feel like that's about everything I have to say about the internship.
Great, thanks, Emily. So I just also realised your name spelled wrong on that slide.
It's okay.
Great, so next up we've got Malavika, who interned at Amazon.
Hello. So can you hear me?
Yep.
Yep. My name is Malavika. I am a 4th year computer science student here, and I interned at Amazon this summer. So I thought I'd walk through the application process first, and then my actual project and what I thought about Amazon in general and the work that I did. So I applied at some point, I think at the end of 2019, I'm not sure about the exact date. And that was a pretty standard application, just putting in your CV and your details and so on. And then I did the online tests that Amazon sent me. I got through to the next round. So there were various coding tests. Some of them were like debugging, some of them were writing more algorithmic solutions to problems. And then there were others that were more based on like Amazon's leadership principles, which they really, really focus on for everything that you do there. Whether you're trying to get in for an internship or a full-time job as a graduate or trying to get promotion, that's like their huge focus. It's not just about how good you are technically. So once I did those, I was invited on for an on-site interview with Amazon in Edinburgh. So during that, I had 2 interviews, and during both of those, they had leadership principle questions. So they, like I said, they really, really care about those. They have all of those online if you just look them up. And the way that I kind of prepared for them was to think of different situations that I had been in that I could relate to them. It didn't have to be from any like work experience necessarily. Some of it was from coursework that I did, or university experiences, or even other jobs that were completely unrelated to technology. And then I had some more kind of technical questions, more algorithmic, or about designing a kind of simple system. And yeah, so for internships, I think 2 interviews is pretty standard at Amazon. What are some of the other questions I got asked? So I can't be specific about the technical questions. In terms of the leadership principle questions, I don't remember them exactly, but they were pretty based around the leadership principles that you can find if you just look up Amazon leadership principles. They have, I think 12, I'm not sure, I should probably know that. And they're all pretty well explained. I applied through, I didn't apply through Spin like Sarah and Jenny. I applied just through the Amazon website. I knew about Amazon as a company already. I'm sure many of you, or if not all of you, already do as well. Usually with a lot of companies, if you can think of one that might have some kind of STEM related job, they probably do. They might not do internships, but they probably have some sort of tech related job, and you can just go onto their careers page on their website. How many internships should you apply to at the same time? I was applying quite a lot. Obviously, it's a trade-off between how many applications you make and how much time you have to actually do each one. They can often send you a lot of coding tests, for example, for software engineering or technical internships like that. And you have to make time for the interview and actually, research the company if you don't know them as well, and think about why you want to work there. That does take time, and that was something that I did do for interviewing at Amazon. I looked into those leadership principles and I practiced my algorithms and data structures, which is quite common for tech internships. So I'll go on to explain my project a little bit. I was more interested in back-end engineering and technology. So that's the kind of team that I was matched to. I worked in the dynamic advertising team, but I didn't know anything about advertising before I worked there. This was internet advertising. So whenever you see a little box on a website pop up with an ad, that's the kind of team that I was working with, was getting a request from that website to either show an advert or not to whoever was visiting it. And that was the kind of focus of that team specifically. There were lots and lots of teams working on it, but they had a very specific system that they were working on. And I built a tool that would help the developers debug their system a little bit better. And I did a lot of research into which technologies to use and how to design the system and the debugging tool that I was building, that is, and implementing. Obviously, I wrote the tool myself, and it's being carried forward, which is nice to know. And at the end of my internship, I also presented my project, and I think people from various different teams all over the world at Amazon working in advertising came to see that, which was really, really cool to hear, and lots of people were interested. And this was the same for basically every other intern project presentation that I went to. Everyone's really interested in the intern projects, which is nice to see. And they all, at least all of the presentations that I attended, were for projects that were really impactful and would help Amazon as a whole, which I really enjoyed. And yeah, there was also a lot of fun stuff that happened. There was an intern day, so it was just a whole day for all of the interns to go to different talks and workshops that they had on. And there were like some more technical focused ones of intern panels or kind of other more work focused talks, but then there were also a couple of workshops and more fun talks, and that was really nice to experience. And there were things on every single week for various different interests. Amazon has its own like internal kind of YouTube, so that's where everything was broadcast to us, and it was like really nice to interact with all of the other interns through that as well. So I think that's kind of everything that I wanted to cover, but I'm happy to answer any other questions that anyone has.
If no one has any questions, move on. I'll give you a second to. Okay, doesn't look like there's any more questions. If you have any more, we'll have time to answer them at the end as well. Oh, sorry, there's one more. Would employers check your previous projects on GitHub if you try to build your own portfolio in there?
Yeah, I think they definitely might. It's something that I link to on my CV and website. It's really useful to have, especially if you don't have as much work experience. I did have an internship in my second year, so going into my third year applying for Amazon, I did have work experience, but I think it helped that I did have a couple of projects from hackathons on my GitHub page. And I think it also shows that you can at least use the basics of version control. That's something else that might be useful to show. What kind of experiences did I have before the internship? I interned at a speech processing company in my second year, or the summer of my second year. And that was a much smaller company, but I had a solid project to show from that, where I built a new system for them to show off their speech processing ability, basically. And that was also really useful to talk about. Are there any of the students talking about biological?
Unfortunately, we couldn't get anyone from biology. So sorry if you're sitting here from biology. We'll have somebody from biology. Hopefully another time we'll have them.
Are there any other questions for me specifically about Amazon or software engineering internships?
If not, we'll just move on. Yeah, as I said, we'll have time to answer more at the end. And just to clarify, for whoever asked it, only me and Jenny applied for these internships through Spin. Everyone else applied like directly or through other means. Yeah, so next up we've got Rebecca Collins.
Hello, I'm Rebecca. I'm going to share my screen. Let me know if this doesn't work, Sarah. Can you see it okay?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So, hello, I'm Rebecca. I did an investment summer internship this year. I'm the treasurer for Women in STEM at the minute, and I'm in 4th year for maths. So I was in my 3rd year when I applied. And I did direct entry actually for maths, so it's kind of my 3rd year now, but anyway. The place that I interned at is called T. Rowe Price, and they are an investment management company. So that means that they buy shares on the stock market, and they hope that the value of those shares will increase over time. So they might buy like the shares of Amazon, like where Malavika was working, or Google or Alphabet, or any other company where you could buy stocks. So they have a lot of things that they can invest in. And the reason that they do that is because there's people who have money that want it to grow over time, but they don't necessarily know how to make it grow. So charities are a good one, but they want their donations to be invested so that over time they can keep generating money from them. Pensions are another one, because people pay into their pensions when they work, but they need that money to grow over time so that when they're an old person, inflation will mean that their £1 from today is worth nothing in 50 years. So it needs to be invested to make that business model sustainable. And even like our university has money that it needs to invest just to be able to make itself sustainable over time. But none of those places know much about the stock market. So they give their money to an investment manager who then invests that money and then hopes that it grows over time. And T. Rowe Price is actually quite a large asset manager. They have over $1 trillion at the moment that they manage, that they invest. So it makes quite a big difference in the overall financial markets where they decide to put their money. So my job this summer was to work in the investing team. And what they do is literally researching as many companies and industries as they can to try and decide which ones they think are going to be the most valuable over time and where they should put their money now so that in 10 years they can make a large profit. So I had two projects to work on. One of them was in impact or ESG investing, and I know someone asked about that earlier. And that's an area that I'm interested in because it looks at using the money that you invest in the stock market to try and bring about some change. So it might be investing in a renewable energy company or an education company that's trying to make education more accessible in disadvantaged countries. It kind of covers the whole breadth of like doing good. And for anyone wondering, ESG stands for environmental, social, and governance. So it's like 3 pillars to look at a company in a slightly different way. So one of my projects was in renewable energy, which is really cool because I didn't know that much about it. And it was a really intense way of trying to learn about a new topic. And also people actually cared about what my recommendations were at the end and what I thought about that particular energy that I was researching. And my other project was in looking at the animal health industry and a specific company within that and trying to decide whether I thought that company would be a good investment for the company. So it actually was quite meaningful what I was doing because people actually cared about what I had to say about these projects. And I did get to present on my ideas at the end to people who were much higher up than me. And so that was quite scary, but also quite exciting and gave me some good presenting experience. And just day to day, you do quite cool things if you work in investments because CEOs and all the like senior teams of companies, the largest companies in the world, are on calls with the investors quite regularly to update them about how the businesses are going. And the reason that CEOs would even care about an investment management company is because they care if investors want to invest in their company. So I'm going to use Amazon again as an example, sorry. But if like Jeff Bezos wants, like he wants to know that people like his company. And if all the investment managers around the world decide that they don't like Amazon anymore, then that's a lot of money that's going to leave Amazon, and people, if they keep selling their shares, might make the share price go down. So CEOs don't want that to happen, and that's why they try and keep investment managers happy. So they do lots of calls with them, and for me that was pretty cool because it meant I got to listen to some well-known CEOs of like well-known companies and just be on the other end of a phone to them, essentially listening to way more experienced people than me having chats with them. So that was pretty cool. And also I was able to lead a couple of calls with CEOs and external experts, which is quite a lot of responsibility for an intern, but it shows that you actually got to do some quite cool work in this company. I also spent a lot of time just getting to know people in the company who are doing different jobs that I didn't understand the job titles for, and learning a lot through that. And then just these last 2 points that I have here, there was a lot of training that I got to, like a structured training that they put me on just to learn about investing and how you actually do it properly. Obviously, I'm still not an expert, but I know a lot more than I did. And that learning is constant. They always say that you never stop learning in this job. So if that's something that you like, you don't want to get to a point where you plateau, then this could be quite an interesting career because things are always changing in the markets and you will like always have to respond to new challenges. And then just as an idea of what it was like to be an intern, I actually did get to go into the office for 6 out of my 8 weeks this summer. They were sort of gradually reopening their offices, and obviously it's probably not even happening again now, but I did get to go in, which was cool. And I worked from about 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. every day. 8 a.m. is kind of, you have to be there from that time because there's like a morning meeting that starts every day. The cutoff time for when you go home, it's kind of flexible. Like it didn't need to be 7 p.m. probably, but it would be between 6 and 7 that you would leave. So if you don't like the sound of that like amount of time at work, then that's just something to consider. Just to highlight some of the good things that I thought about from the internship, just on reflection, and some of the bad. The good thing is that you get paid a lot in this kind of job, right? As a graduate, you get a high salary and it only increases with time. It's kind of the nature of the job that it's like using money to make money. So there's just a lot of money in these kinds of businesses. So that's a definite bonus. But it wasn't an arrogant or horrible culture like I imagine some financial companies might be. It was very friendly. Everyone wanted to talk to me and just tell me what they did and offer to help me if I wasn't sure what I was doing. And there doesn't seem to be much competition between the people there, which is nice, because you might expect that somewhere like that, people almost don't want to help each other because they all want to be the best and they all want to kind of outdo each other. But it was actually really nice. Like I mentioned, there's a lot of cool research that you get to do, which is kind of your research to own. So no one else might be researching your particular area. So then you become an expert in the area that you research. And so people care about what you think about that particular industry or company. And so it's a lot of responsibility, but that's quite nice over time that you are valued. And like I mentioned, you regularly get to speak to experts and like CEOs of companies all the time, which is quite exciting. And the only sign of downsides that I can see to this is it's maybe not a job where you're going to have the most impact in the world, if that's something that you really care about. So like you're not developing a medicine that's going to save like thousands of lives, or developing some new tech that's going to like be in everyone's like pockets in the next 10 years. It is more small, I think, the impact that you can have. But having said that, the ESG and impact investing is definitely trying to increase the amount of impact that you can have within financial institutions. Ooh. Is that me writing on there? I don't know how that's working, but anyway. I don't know if anyone else can see these.
Yeah, I can see as well. I didn't notice that.
How has this happened? Like, I haven't pressed anything. Well, this is my last slide anyway. So.
I apologize, that was accidentally me. I don't know what I pressed on my pen, and it just started to write, and I didn't think anyone else could see it.
It's okay.
I'm really sorry. And I don't know how to get rid of it. I just accidentally started a setting. I'm going to try and fix it.
It's okay. This is my last slide anyway, which you might be glad about if you don't like finance at all. But if you are interested in applying for their internship at T. Rowe Price, the applications close on the 23rd of October, so it's actually really soon. And that's for their internship next summer. And they don't have an official graduate scheme. They only recruit from their interns. So if you would like maybe to do it after graduation, then you need to get in for the internship. Otherwise, it might be difficult to try and get in as a graduate. And if you have any questions, I saw maybe there's some coming in, but if there's any questions that you want to message me, just feel free to find me on Facebook. I've put my name again there, or like through Women in STEM or anything, if you want application advice or to know anything else that I haven't covered. So yeah, that's me. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Rebecca.
A bit.
There's a couple of questions in the chat. So can you apply to these internships first year?
I don't think you can apply in first year, but I think you can apply even if you're in your final year. So penultimate year is kind of their ideal, but they have taken interns in the last few years who are in their final year. So they're not quite so limited. I know some companies say that you have to be penultimate. But if you are in your first year, I'd really recommend looking for a smaller asset manager that doesn't even necessarily have an official internship program, and try and get an internship with them, even if it's not official, because that's what I did. And I think that helped me get the internship with T. Rowe this year. So that's just my advice.
And could you answer the next one? And someone asked, can you send the application website for the company?
Yeah, I'll put it on the chat. It's they outsource their recruitment to Bright Network. So initially you apply through Bright Network, and then there's a couple of stages that you do with them, and then the assessment centre will be with T. Rowe Price, and T. Rowe Price people will be assessing you. But yeah, I'll just type in Bright Network.
And someone's asked how the salary was as an intern.
The salary?
You don't have to say the specific price
Well,
value if you don't want
to. The salary for me, at least, was like 48,000, like an annual amount, which obviously you get paid monthly. I have no idea if they'll keep it the same, so massive disclaimer. But yeah, like some financial places you can get much more than that, some you can get less, so kind of in the middle. But I think it's pretty good as a graduate.
Fairly comfortable for a graduate. So someone says, what's the conversion rate as penultimate summer intern to graduate / fourth year?
It's really high. So most years they will take everyone. This year it was actually only me that interned within the investment team, at least. And there was another person there, but she was from a slightly different route, but we both got offered graduate roles. And the year before, all 5 had got offered graduate roles. So again, disclaimer, they might change it. And it does depend on the people. They don't have to offer it, but they hire interns with the intention of retaining them. So.
And the final question was someone asking if we have a list of companies to apply to. I don't know if that's specifically for you or more generally, but more generally, we're hoping to put up a list of sort of resources on the Women in STEM website soon. Yeah, I don't know if you have any specific companies that you want to recommend or not.
I guess it depends quite what you're interested in. If you're interested in investment management specifically, I mean, there's so many that you could apply for. If you want to go for a big one, like just Google investment management companies, like biggest 50 or something, or biggest 20, and like most of the top ones there you'll probably heard of, or at least can easily find a recruitment page for. Obviously, I think T. Rowe is really good if you're interested in this like industry, and it would be quite different if you were to do it at a large bank, the same kind of role. So consider what kind of culture you might like. Something a bit friendlier but still intense, or like a bank where, in my opinion, it seems quite competitive and slightly cutthroat. But yeah, actually, if anyone has specific questions about that, like just message me and I'm happy to talk more about it.
And the final question there was, were there a lot of Edinburgh Uni students as interns?
Not where I was, just because there were like, I was basically the only intern. Within the company itself, I would say that diversity is lacking in some ways in these companies still. So in terms of senior people and even more junior, a lot of people kind of went like private schools and then like top unis, and then got into this. So you definitely, like, Edinburgh's obviously fine to get in because I got in, so they're not going to turn their noses down or anything. But I don't think there was anyone from Edinburgh in the company that I could really remember. Most people, I guess there's just not that many people in the company to compare to. But I guess I was one of them.
So yeah, hopefully we'll see some more Edinburgh Uni ones. Final question, what's the size of the company?
In terms of money, like I said, they have over $1 trillion, which I think puts them, the last time I checked, was like top 15 in the world for asset management companies. So it's quite a lot of money. Oh, employees as well. Honestly, it's so bad. I actually have no idea how many employees they have. But they're a US-based company, so a lot of their employees are in America. In Baltimore is their headquarters, and then they have a lot of several international offices, of which London is kind of the most important. And in London, they have, I'd say, about like 100 to 150 investment professionals there, plus like HR and tech and every other role that needs to go along with it. So it's not, I don't know how big it is in terms of compared to other companies. It's fairly big, but like it doesn't feel like you're one tiny cog in a big wheel.
Okay, thanks for answering all of those. We'll move on now to approve.
That's good. That's a good pronunciation. So yeah, so I think I have quite a few things I can talk about, not just about Gambit, but like internships and different things in general. So I think the first experience I had was in a startup. Well, you could say I was the co-founder of the startup basically. So I got together with a couple of friends from uni when they were like third, fourth years, and we made this company called Zesty, and we delivered food from chefs who would cook from home, and to people, which would cut costs for, like, because the costs in food industry are really high because of the commercial rents and spaces. So what we were trying to do is like make it easy for people to like trust that the process, that there's this clean kitchen that this person is cooking in, and then we could sell food at like much cheaper rate with the same quality. So that was the aim of the company, and that was, I think, my first experience in a large scale project. It was my first experience with a lot of things, I would say. I learned a lot, uh, developed a website and database, been managing everything from AWS to Python to React, lots of stuff. There was a lot of learning. That's true in every startup where you work for. Uh, my advice, if I'm truly being honest, never be the first engineer in a startup. Always try to be the last co-founder. And if you're not the co-founder, never work for free. So these are my two advices for anybody. Like if you have like in tech, especially, please don't take an unpaid internship anywhere. And except like if it's like really small charity or NPO which sort of supports an or like cause that you're really passionate about, and they really can't pay you, maybe it's fine then. But please don't take an unpaid internship anywhere. It's just like disrespectful to your labor and to everyone else who's working. uh, so yeah, startups are cool as in you can talk about them a lot. Till now, whenever I interview at different places, I get asked about this, like apart from all my other experience. And this is always great to like talk about them, and like lots of more companies look for this entrepreneurial mindset between in their employees. So they really like this thing, like, oh, you have this experience, blah blah blah. And then you can talk about a lot of things. Like there are like some standard interview questions that every company asks. What is like in the mistake that you made that you feel the most like worst about, something like that? What is the thing that you think you could have done better? In a startup, you get like so many instances of like things that you regret or things that you think you could have done better, that you will have like answers for days for these type of questions, and they're always like relatable to the interviewer, because he knows work, like while working things happen. And this is why this is okay. And so it's good that way. However, really don't work as an engineer unpaid for a startup, please. It's not worth it. If you're a co-founder, you like what they're building, or you like what you are building because you're the co-founder, please, it's a great opportunity, especially if you're in your first years of stuff. There are lesser opportunities, I'll be honest, for first years, for any internship available, especially in a 4-year course. Like lots of like spring weeks are not available to like first years here. But yeah, you can like keep a lookout if you have an idea. There's Edinburgh Ventures, they will support you financially even. And you should be like EU or UK though, not international students. We are not welcome to open startups. But yeah, apart from that, this was a good experience. There's another company I worked shortly called World Quant. It was a very, as the name suggests, they were a quant trading firm which you had to write algorithms and stuff. It was not a formally an internship. Shitty company, don't work for them. I think they shut down their office in UK anyway, so we will not be working for them. So yeah, so I think it's important to recognize bad experiences in life. Yeah, it was a bad experience, and I still learned something. I learned about financial markets, predicting stocks, making algorithmic decisions, and how to do stuff there. So it was fine in that way, but the whole of the company was just a massive dumpster fire, and I would never suggest you do some work there. Coming to Gambit Research, I'm in my third year, so Gambit Research was my second year internship. Uh, Honestly speaking, I'd never heard of the company before I joined it. Uh, the company is quite old, actually. It's like 15, 16 years old, deliberately really small sized. It's less than 100 people in size. So what they do is like they're a high frequency trading firm. So like like investment managers, they have like a long term trading strategies generally. High frequency traders buy and sell stocks like really quickly in like small amount of times and like seconds. They're like microseconds are important in this business. However, Gambit Research is not a traditional high frequency trading firm because they don't buy stocks, they buy bets. So like they are in the sports betting market. So if you have heard about any, like in UK, sports betting is everywhere. And like stock exchanges, there are betting exchanges as well, three, four of them in UK, and like basically in cup two, three in Asia. And the major source of money for these companies is you're arbitraging the bets you buy in UK, sell in Asia. Those like microseconds matter that you buy and sell, and then you make a profit on it. Very safe business, I would say, and like pretty much stable in how much they're earning for the company of their size. I really like the internship experience. I think, especially like I was placed in the strategies team, which was responsible for building strategies for arbitraging. Basically, that's just buying and selling quickly. And it was a really pleasant experience. We were like a 10 people team. We will have a catch up every day and like longer meetings every 2 weeks, and then monthly planning meetings basically. I did this remotely. They were very accommodating of it on the whole coronavirus situation. I was in India, and they were fine with me working, and they were like they have flexible working hours, so you can work anytime. You don't need to work overtime here. Any overtime gets paid, by the way, anyway. And I was just working 7 hours a day, relaxing, and but learning a lot. And I had a lot of fun. Like they were genuinely great people. It was fully remote, so you can't get the whole experience. I had went to their office for one of their on-site interviews. So they had like a traditional interview process. They don't post generally jobs on their website. They post it on Hacker News Hire Me threads, monthly hiring threads. So Hacker News is a website. They have who is hiring thread every Sunday or first Sunday of the month. It's a good place to search for internships. Some like hidden gems come up a lot of times. This was where I found this company. They had a hidden challenge on their website. You do that, you do a cipher and everything. They call you for a phone interview. They do the phone interview. If they like you, they call you over to London to their office. I don't think so. They will call you right now because they're working remotely. But yeah, they call you over to the office, and they give you a tour. There's three interviews: standard behavior, one behavioral, couple of them. One was algorithmic, so you will be designing an algorithm, solving a problem, sort of like whiteboarding. You could take it on a piece of paper and do it as well. And the third thing would be like doing a live debugging session. They try to put you on a burner a bit. So when we were doing the live debugging session over this program and like adding features, they put it up in like on the TV, on the company screen, and so that everybody in the company basically could see me struggling through the problem. But that's a questionable hiring practice, but it was interesting. But yeah, a really friendly bunch of people. I got to learn more like about, I do a lot of Python anyway, but they have their stack is Erlang. For like their Erlang is like a Haskell like functional language, if you're not familiar with it. Erlang, Python, and C++ is what they write, apart from the front end teams which are React and JavaScript based. So yeah, I got to do a bit of front end, like basic HTML and JavaScript. Like I was not doing a lot of framework based stuff, not framework heavy. I was more on the backend sides of the team with the strategies. So yeah, C++, low level coding, need to make like latency analyzing everything. So it was a very great experience there. And I would recommend this to anyone, honestly. I think they are open to people with all experiences. I've seen them taking first years. They don't take a lot of interns, but they are sort of in a niche, so they do not get a lot of applications. So if you do apply, you will get a good attention from them, like fair attention, fair amount of attention. And I think it would be a good place to work. They will accept first years and second years anyway. So if you're looking for internships, you can apply to them. And Apart from that, I got like some other internships that year. Going, I could do feature space, again, standard procedure with the internship, apply online with a cover letter. They give you a test, a coding test, basically design, you do an API call in Java, send them to it, and they call you for an interview. They talk about Java a lot, how to do stuff like what is inheritance, abstraction, in different type of classes. Then they ask you to walk you through code, and then standard questions like what is something you regret, blah blah blah. One interesting thing, other thing that I got was the MLH fellowship. So there's like a couple of fellowships for open source that are really famous. There's GSOC, so Google Summer of Code. Outreach he does for Linux as well. And last year, during the whole coronavirus peak lockdown situation, Major League Hacking. I love hackathons, by the way. Super way to like connect to companies, will get good jobs and everything, make projects, build your portfolio. But yeah, every Major League Hacking is one such organizations that it's like an umbrella organization of all the hackathons in the world. So student run hackathons. So they had like a program called MLH Fellowship where people could contribute to open source projects. For a program running its first year, they collaborated with Facebook, and they had like a super awesome like projects for open source. Like you could like from scikit-learn in Python, like you couldn't get like more hotly developed projects like compared to that. You were developing on React, scikit-learn, everything. So I didn't end up taking that offer, but I was still part of their basically their GitHub, and I could see the conversations with every team, and I know 2 3 people who did it, and they had like a brilliant experience with that. Again, if your first years uh, where you will have lesser opportunities other places, consider applying to this. It will be a great experience. They pay obviously, and it's really nice. uh, this year again, I think this year has been the best year as far as internship applications go for me. To be honest, I applied to like 100 other internships in second year, didn't get like call from 90 of them. So for third year, I have a very good strike rate. To be honest, this year, everywhere that I apply, I do hear back. It may be because I'm penultimate year, maybe because now I have more experience. Uh, but yeah, I think I'm going to go with Stripe. I have an offer for Stripe. Stripe is an awesome company in every aspect of whatever they do. I was a customer when I was building my startup. I used Stripe's products. I really like them. And apart from that, I think Stripe has just a great culture. Their interviewing is much different from every other companies. They don't ask you lead code questions like other big tech companies. They will have you genuinely. They allow you to Google during the interviews. They allow you to use Stack Overflow. They allow you to do everything, and it's more like a conversation with the person who's taking the interview, and you try to develop a solution. Like for one, it was like you're writing an API, then you were writing a rate limiter. Basically, like if you're calling one thing a lot of times, you want to limit. You don't want an API to be abused by someone. So this was like one of the questions. One of the questions was based on dictionary, like sorting dictionaries, and it was honestly a great process. Ended up with like an engineering manager interview. Everybody in the company seems awesome, so I'm inclined for it. Otherwise, I might go with Palantir. Not the best reputation. I have to complete their on-site interviews, or Two Sigma. Those are two interesting companies that I might go end up with. So yeah, if my advice for internships application is apply a lot, fail a lot, and see where you can end up. And because it's a lottery at many places, and just be don't think you don't deserve any job. You deserve every job that is being posted. You will be able to do it if you put your heart to it. So just be focused there, and I'm sure you will be fine. So just go ahead with it. And yeah, so that was sort of it from my side. If you have any questions about anything I talked about, you can drop it in the chat right now. Talk to me later. I'm completely open for questions every time. I would love to help you out. And yeah, I'm happy to be here. Seeing so many people applying. So yeah, best of luck with your applications. I hope you get jobs that you want.
Thanks for that. There's a couple of questions. So what was the name of the website? I think that was in reference to the website that you got the Gambit Research one from.
Yeah. So the website is called, I will type it in the chat. It's news.ycombinator.com. I hope my spelling is right. So, so this is Y Combinator is a famous startup incubator, like definitely the most famous startup incubator. They have this news page which is called Hacker News. There's no real hacking news on that. It's more a general news board where you post tech related things. It's like sort of like Reddit, but a more curated audience. If everything was one technology sub in Reddit and people have like more experience, and in general it's very moderated, so you'll not have like frame wars and jokes. It's more of a serious discussion. Every Sunday of the month, first Sunday of the month, they have that who is hiring thread. Lots of interesting companies post there. Best thing is like people actually like employees post there, not recruiters. So you can, and they give their contact details, so you can like talk directly to them about their experience, get a referral and apply. So that's the great selling point of applying from there.
And I think there's another question. Sorry, there's quite a few coming in. What do you study?
Oh, I study computer science.
And also to all the questions about what like we have coming up. We've only got a few people left. They're all either engineering or kind of techie, I think. Yeah, I'm really sorry. We tried really hard to get a range of STEM subjects, but there is just more internships available for sort of engineering and tech generally. But there might be some useful advice coming. But yeah, it's kind of focused on, we've mostly got maths, tech and engineering. So sorry, sort of chemistry and biology and geosciences. Is there any more questions before we move on? No? Okay. So now we've got Nia.
Hi, I'm Nia, and I'm a Year 4 maths student and did the Corporate Analyst Development Program at JP Morgan last summer. So the application process was fairly standard. I just submitted a CV, did the video interview, the Pymetrics test, and then from there, it was just the assessment center. So the program essentially, I didn't do the full program because of COVID. So usually it's a 10-week internship where you're placed in either data analytics, process improvement, or project management within different teams in the bank. But because of COVID, they decided not to do a formal program, and we just did a 5-week thing with 2 different projects that were one made up, one for a client. So the first project we did was improving the account opening process at JP, but that was a fake one they just made to see like how we would react to that situation. And the second one was a real project where we did an Interns for Social Good project. So we worked with a nonprofit organization and we looked into their internal operations to try and improve their account reporting processes, and looked at different like software and stuff to recommend the best systems to them. So the day range for about like 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. I think it's more like 9 to 5, 9 to 6 on the real thing. It's just because they technically crammed a 10-week internship in 5, but expected us to like do the same amount of work. There was lots of networking opportunities available. Everyone's like really happy to speak to you. And I think that was like an interesting thing being at the big bank, because you didn't have to just network in your division. Sorry if you hear police cars in the background. My new flat has a really loud window, but everyone across the bank was very happy to speak with anyone. Sorry, I'll let that pass. Everyone across the bank was very happy to speak with anyone. Like if you want to speak to someone in asset management or the investment bank or in technology, you could just send someone an email and they'd be happy to speak. We had about 1 week of training, which consists of Excel, and there was another thing for their PowerPoint system, Pitch Pro. I think they usually do 2 weeks, so there could be more in the real thing. But yeah, that was essentially it. So if you have any questions about that, feel free to message the chat or send me a message on Facebook.
I think the same siren's just gone by me.
Are you
yeah.
on the main street?
Hmm?
Are you on like the main Nicholson Street thingy?
Yeah, Clark Street.
Yeah.
So is there any questions specifically for Nia? So can you tell us more about the test that you mentioned? The
Um, yeah, the Pymetrics test, I think, is like a standard thing at certain places. You can go onto their website, like, once you do it once, you don't have to redo it again for different companies unless they have different tests. But it's essentially different games. So there's no right answer, even though I think there is a right answer, but they're just seeing how you think. Like, there's games to test how risk averse you are, what's your drive, do you know when to quit a situation? And I think with some of them, it can depend on the bank. Like some tests, they want to know that you can quit while you're ahead, or other things want to see if you like strive to the top. But it's really easy, and it's the most fun online test thing I've done.
Any more questions? On that note about biometrics, actually, I did one recently for a different, like, it wasn't a bank, and they are actually quite fun. I find it really interesting, so I won't stress about them. Okay, we don't have any specific questions. There's a question there about how would you move into the tech industry. We can approach it at the end, but if anybody, like any of the people with experience, want to answer that in the chat, go ahead. Yeah, so we'll move on to Christina.
Hi there, everyone. I'm Christina, so I'm a mechanical engineering student in my final year. And basically, over the past summer, I was working at a very small startup called G4 Insights. So I'm Canadian, but yeah, the company is based in Vancouver. So I was based in Vancouver. I was able to go into the office just because it's quite a small company. There weren't any major shutdowns for us. But basically, what a research and development mechanical engineer does is basically, because the company is a renewable engineering company that is developing its own proprietary technology to create natural gas from wood waste. So in Canada, we have a lot of trees and a lot of wood waste. And so it's just kind of using, instead of it going to landfill or just kind of degrading, we can use the wood chips to actually power cities and stuff. And this has been shown on a small scale on the Alberta grid, which is really interesting. But because it's quite a new technology, there's a lot of research still being underdone. It's right now it's on a very small scale. So my job was basically to kind of look into other studies that have been done and kind of create a scaled up system from what we have based on research. So I was looking at all these different other companies and other methods of how to scale up the system. And I was specifically focused on this one small unit. So it was like the media recirculation unit, which is one of the steps in this like massive process to get wood waste to natural gas. But I can answer any questions more about that after, but I just wanted to touch on like my advice basically for applications. I ended up getting this because I ended up emailing a lot of different people, and a lot of the time you don't hear back, but sometimes you do. So I definitely think using your network is really important. So reaching out to people on LinkedIn, you know, if you're curious about a company, just message someone. You never know what might come out of it. Engage with the company online, so really learn more about what the company does and you know where you might want to fit in. I would say keep an open mind for new opportunities. So I'm actually quite interested in space exploration, but where I'm from, Vancouver, doesn't really have many space companies, and so you know, I heard about this company and I thought it sounded really interesting and just went for it. Also, I would say definitely show yourself off on your applications. It's always better to kind of, it sounds a bit silly, but you know, if you've had this really cool internship, or you know, you did this awesome project at university and like you're really proud of it, then just, you know, talk about it, because companies want to hear about the stuff that you want to do. And yeah, and they want to see that you're excited, enthusiastic, and can apply yourself to any problem that you might face. I would also say record everything. So keep all your application materials, because you never know when you might be able to use it again. And definitely reflect on the whole experience, because I think each internship that you get is an opportunity to really grow your skills. And you know, you might end up working for the company in the future, so it's important to kind of figure out what you liked, what you don't like, and all that stuff. But yeah, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Christina? I'll give you a second in case people are typing.
Just to kind of add, I was working on quite a small team, but I was like one of the only mechanical engineers in the department. Most of the other people around me were like operations engineers, machinists, chemical engineers. So I mean, at this company, there's kind of a range of different skills that are needed, and we're all kind of working on different parts. So like I was working on the hardware and kind of all the different materials and stuff that we would need, all the different what was I working on? Let's think. Yeah, I was working on like a test stand, and so I was building up the test stand and all that kind of stuff, whereas the chemical engineers were more working on like how the gases were flowing inside like pressure chambers and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, very interdisciplinary. I was kind of doing a bit of everything, but that kind of happens in engineering. You know, you can apply yourself in lots of different scenarios.
Okay. Well, if anyone does have any questions for Christina, just put them in the chat and we'll get to them later. But we'll move on to Fee.
Hiya, I'm Fee, or if you want to attempt the long Irish name, Fianid. But yeah, so I studied chemical engineering at Edinburgh and graduated during the summer, and I'm now working at Morgan Stanley in as a technology analyst, which is a job I got from the internship, which I got from the Spring Insight Week. So I'm someone who moved from chemical engineering into technology because I found I didn't much like chem eng. I think there are quite a few people who feel like that in that degree, and I really did like coding. So my experience in doing that was mainly as a result of joining the programming club in Edinburgh, which is still there. And I would very much recommend you guys giving it a go if that's something you're interested in. And that was enough to kind of like introduce me to it as something that I was interested in. And then I just went ahead and applied to some tech internships. And I think you just have to be a bit ballsy about this, to be honest. Like, you just have to back yourself, even if it's not something you study. There are so many internships out there that will take STEM students and even non-STEM students. So something I wanted to mention was that on my Spring Insight Week, there was a girl who was studying classics at King's College London. They'd advertised the Spring Insight Week as for STEM students only, but she'd just gone ahead and applied, and she was accepted, and she was offered a place on the summer internship. So like in the following year. So I think, you know, if you see something that you're interested, even if you don't meet all the criteria, give it a go. Yes, maybe you might be rejected if they're gonna if they do just are strict about that criteria, but you never know. And it's worth giving it a try. So I did a Spring Insight Week there, which I got via doing an online application, followed by a phone call, followed by an assessment centre, and then I got into the Spring Insight Week. But I think actually the interview process for the Spring Insight Week was more difficult than it was to get onto the internship, and then following that, the grad scheme. So I would really recommend getting into the Spring Insights if it's something that you think you could be interested in, because then they really just evaluate how well you worked in your previous work and make your offer based on that, with fewer intensive interviews. So I might answer some questions, because I think there's some questions coming up in the chat rather than just talking at you. It says, are the Spring Insight Week opportunities posted on the University Careers website? Some of them are. I definitely do recommend trawling through the University Careers website. There's so many on there though that it can be a bit difficult to get through them all. But I would recommend giving that a go. I'd also recommend signing up to things like Target Jobs. That's how I found out about the Morgan Stanley one. The Bright Network, people have mentioned before. Just sign up to those. They send emails in your once a week or whatever, and it's really useful actually, just by making you aware of opportunities out there. Like, I didn't really know at all what investment banking was until I got onto the Spring Insight Week. Well, the night before my interview, and I was like, oh, better Google what it is. But it's good signing up to those things because it broadens your horizons of what you could go for. Around what time did the Spring Insight Week opportunities pop up? So I applied to the Spring Insight Week opportunity, which was in April. I applied to it in early January, but I would recommend trying to get in even earlier if you can. But I think they kind of come around Christmas time usually. They're a bit later than the grad scheme applications. I'm trying to see if there's any other questions. The mention about programming club having a Discord. I can, if you guys want to give me a thumbs up, if you want me to talk more about like the kind of stuff that's in the job, or a thumbs down if you want me to talk about the application process. I can get kind of an idea of what you guys want to. Oh, there's not a thumbs up or thumbs down. Oh yes, there is. I can get an idea of what you guys want to hear more about. It's on like the more part. If not, I'll just probably give you a brief insight to both of like working for tech in Morgan Stanley. Everything they do business wise will need to have like a tech counterpart. So you could be matched to a business unit, which involves a lot of problem solving, or you could be doing stuff like machine learning. You could be part of their hunt team, which is their cybersecurity team, and that stuff's really interesting. And you get a say in where you get placed as well. And they are willing to train people who didn't do tech. So like at the moment, I'm on the 15-week training scheme for their grad job, which is just teaching you like everything from the ground up, which has been pretty intensive but pretty interesting. But in terms of advice, I just say like have a bit of a scattergun approach. It is a trade-off in terms of like how much time you spend on each application, but don't take it personally if you don't get into stuff, because it is a lot of a game of luck. So you do have to just like apply to as many as possible, and then don't get hurt by the rejections. Gosh, no, I know that I've got a lot of them, and you shouldn't take it too deeply. And then just kind of go in with like, back yourself, go in with confidence. If you don't believe you're going to do it, then you're not going to do it. So you just kind of believe in yourself, and then, you know, manifest it. I know it's a bit it's a bit it sounds a bit fake, but it's just about believing you can do it, and then you're more likely to get it done. Yeah.
Great, thanks, Fee. If there's any more questions, just put them in the chat. Fee's the last one, so I'll just quickly go through some of the internship opportunities that our sponsors have, and then we'll get into like, you can answer any more questions that people have. So Newton Europe, they're a consultancy company, so they've got graduate schemes, not got any internship schemes, but they've got a digital and operations stream for their consultancy graduate schemes. Bloomberg have quite a lot of different opportunities for sort of tech, and also I think they have some non-tech roles as well. They do internships and grad schemes, but they also have an Insights Week as well. I can't remember when that's released, but it'll be on our newsletters, whatever, when it is opened. Amazon, yeah, so as you've heard, they have internships and graduate schemes. They also do Early Insights program, which myself and Malavika have both done. I don't know if anyone else here has done it, but it's quite good. You get a week at Amazon. So usually that's fairly well organised around the university, but again, we'll share it when they tell us about it, so that's fine. And then NatWest Group, which are previously known as RBS, so they've got an office in Edinburgh, and they have an Insights Week as well, and they also have internship and graduate roles available as well. So there's plenty there for sponsors, and then just quickly upcoming events, and then we can just go to Q&A and people can leave if they don't have any questions. So yeah, we've got our first like coffee and chat social on Thursday, so it's just a quick half an hour event. So if you're kind of struggling to meet people because of coronavirus and stuff, or just want to have a wee chat with someone, so it can get quite lonely, the isolation stuff, join us on Thursday. And then yeah, we've got an event with Amazon, so if you are interested in hearing more about Amazon's opportunities, they'll be talking about that at their event. We've got our big question series with physicists, and yeah, a lot more exciting things coming up. And yeah, you can find all the information about all these events on our social media. And yeah, I'll just share my screen and let people kind of answer the questions. Let's go back up. So one that's kind of been answered in the chat is, do you think you should have like LinkedIn before applying for jobs? I'll quickly give an answer to this and anyone else can jump in. But not all jobs will look at your LinkedIn, but it is useful to have there on your CV. But it's also useful for finding internships, I think. Lots of companies, if you follow lots of companies, they share it. And if you have, you meet people at events like this, in future they might be sharing opportunities, so it is worth getting it and just keeping an eye on it. If anyone else has anything they want to add, feel free to just unmute and I'll work my way through questions.
I can quickly speak on that. I use LinkedIn like all the time. I'm always like, all my friends are always like, you're always like posting something or connecting with people. But I think LinkedIn's like a really valuable tool. You can find lots of different opportunities there, and it might not always lead you to a job, but you might make some like valuable connections there, and you can gain so much insight into other people's experiences. Yeah, that's kind of, like, LinkedIn is great, so definitely work on like building up your profile, and put your LinkedIn, if you have like a pretty good LinkedIn profile, put it on your CV, because I know that companies definitely look at your LinkedIn as well.
Yeah, sort of similar comments from me. Basically, LinkedIn can be useful in other things. Say like in big tech or really competitive, as you know, grad schemes, you could like, it's a lottery, you know. So what, and if you want to know how the culture of the company is before working there, just cold messaging people sometimes is a really good idea. They will not always like like you search for like people working in this company, and either if you're really keen, you can like message that recruiters and stuff about them. Generally, recruiters won't really help you too much. They'll just give you the link for the application. However, the other way is like actually talking to engineers or employees. You can talk about, like, say, just say if like you have 5 minutes, that you can call, or you can like talk about, just like, write what was your experience in the company, how do you think they have, what's your opinion on the intern program, what is it like working there, and maybe in the end just ask for a referral for the job. Also, I agree, LinkedIn has like a really good job section. So almost every job I apply, I just see it on LinkedIn. I have like alerts set up for like every day to see if any interesting ones pop up. So that's how I saw the companies would post jobs and then apply to them. So yeah, LinkedIn is like a really great tool, and make use of it, to be honest.
Yeah, so some good advice there. It can be really scary to like connect with people on LinkedIn that you don't know, but the vast majority of people are really nice, and if they don't want to answer you, they just won't answer you. So it's like, it's not a big deal if somebody like knocks you back. Okay, there was a couple of questions about programming club. There's also messages coming in, so I can't really see what they were, but definitely join programming club. I'm sure like Fee can talk a little bit more about it if people want. But we also, Women in STEM and Programming Club, collaborate on Hello World Hack, which actually Fee helped found as well. So yeah, if you're interested in programming and don't really know where to start, or maybe don't want to commit to like weekly lessons yet, we will be having Hello World, hopefully be having Hello World Hack again in about March time. It might be virtual this year, but we're trying our hardest to kind of come up with a way to host it in person. Yeah, and it's a really good way, like, that's beginner friendly, it's completely oriented toward beginners, so if you're scared, like, it's all beginners there, so definitely come along to that. And yeah, generally Programming Club is a really friendly place to start, so everyone's the same position, everyone's beginner, so definitely go along if you're thinking of going into the tech industry.
Just like a small addendum, like programming society, I think you're talking about programming society.
Yeah.
Because programming club is then the informatics.
Yeah, sorry.
So they're like two different things. But like programming club is, we are also really friendly. We are running like basic sessions for interview prep this year, and we'll be running alongside throughout the year, hopefully. So if you're preparing for job interviews and have no idea how to do it, come on. And I'm one of the demonstrators. There we are like 4 or 5 of us, and we'll help you out.
Yes, that's a good point. I meant Programming Society. Programming Club's also available for informatics students as well. So yeah, any more questions? are the Spring Insights opportunities posted on university careers websites? I think some of them are. I'm not very good at remembering to go on the careers website. I don't know if anyone else has a better response for that, but I think there's quite a lot of opportunities posted there. So it's definitely worth looking at them. Yeah.
There is a question for Christina. It's posted pretty recently.
What is the question? So there's like loads.
Yeah, I can just read it out. This person saw that you mentioned that you worked at both Cummins Diesel and G4, and they were wondering how you got your internship, and as it's a very large company, was it your first intern experience?
Yeah, thank you for that question. Yeah, so that was my first internship experience at Cummins. So it was based in Cumbernauld, which is kind of near Glasgow. And I got it, I don't know if you know about Equate Scotland, but it's basically, they run like a CareerWise website and they try to get more women internships. I'm sure Sarah can link in CareerWise, but I was basically going through that and just waiting to see what engineering internships they put up. And you basically just apply through there as long as you're a woman and you have attended a Scottish university, you're attending a Scottish university, I believe, and you just submit your application to like any of the companies that you really want, just like a normal job application. But yeah, so it is quite a big company, and there's quite a big difference between Cummins and G4. I'm going to just like briefly touch on like the differences between working at a big company versus like a small startup. So yeah, with Cummins, it was like a few hundred people were working at the plant, whereas at G4, there was just over 10 of us, I think, working at the company. And there definitely were differences. Like what I did at Cummins, I mean, it made an impact on the plant, but it like didn't really affect Cummins' like business because they're all over the world in like all sorts of places and working in various industries, whereas at G4, whatever I did there really made an impact on the company. So like the work that I was doing this summer is really vital for like their future kind of research, and hopefully my research will be in kind of the final product that will be used in powering more communities across Canada. So yeah, there's definitely a difference between like the amount of impact you can have in your role at like a larger company versus a smaller company. And I think that's something to think about when you're looking at applying to different companies. But feel free to email me. I can like put in my email into the chat, and if anyone has any questions about kind of the differences between those two, because like there is quite a big difference, I can definitely respond to your emails there.
Thanks, Christina. So there's another question about how would you describe a good LinkedIn profile? Again, everyone else feel free to jump in this. But I would say definitely have all your, like, if you have any experiences, even if they're not like related to the field you're going into, like even if they're like part-time jobs, like working at a cafe or something, it's worth putting them on. And yeah, try and be fairly active. It's quite difficult if you're not like involved in things to be active, but like people's posts, like your name comes up more the more you're active and like reacting to other people's posts and things like that. Yeah, I don't know if anyone else has any other advice.
I would say like definitely make sure you have a photo. You know, people like to know who they're speaking to, and so upload like a professional kind of photo. It doesn't need to be like a photo shoot or anything, but just something that shows your face nice and crisp and clear. And then also make sure that you kind of write a few sentences in your bio. Like there's like it's like an introduction to yourself, I think. I don't know the actual word for it. Just make sure you have like a few like sentences in there, just like who you are, your university student, and kind of just like what you're interested in. So that's what.
My small advice to LinkedIn hacking is complete all the sections in the profile. That's really important because once you complete it, LinkedIn starts showing you to a lot more people than you imagine. And the thing is that first you should try to get 500 connections. The moment you hit 500 connections, nobody sees your actual connection count. And even if you have like 501 or if you have like 1,000, doesn't matter at that point. thing is that 500 connections, your connections at that is like statistically at that point you will be like second connections. You will have like second connections with most of the people working in tech or like near Edinburgh or like in your industry basically at that point. So then getting new connections becomes significantly easier once you hit 500. So, and how do you get 500? Just go to your related like recommended connections. Everyone who is in University of Edinburgh, send them a request. To be honest, like people, if you're in the same university, they tend to accept you rather quickly. Most of the people like me would definitely accept you. And then you just like keep growing, and it doesn't matter if you don't, somebody doesn't reply to you, somebody doesn't accept you, just forget it and keep moving on. Fill in the profile, get 500 connections, and then you're sorted on LinkedIn.
Can I also jump in to kind of say, yeah, it's really good to get like connections and stuff. You're definitely right about that. One thing I will kind of add though is I get a lot of like LinkedIn requests from like people, and a lot of the time they don't send me messages, and it's kind of a bit like, is it a real person or not? So, you know, if you don't know someone, it's totally cool to like, I think there's an option to add a note, and I always just make sure I say like, hi, like Sarah, for example, I found your profile and I'm really interested in like your spin internship. Love to connect with you. I always like make sure to include a little letter just so people know kind of who you are and what you're interested in, and they know you're like a real person.
Yeah, that's good advice, especially you do get a lot of spam on LinkedIn sometimes from like recruiters that pay to get like these auto-generated messages and things like that. Yeah, so it is good to message and kind of, yeah, you do are like a real person and everything. Also on LinkedIn, you can put on if you're looking for roles. So you can say whether you're looking for internships or graduate schemes or like what sort of roles you're looking for, and then that gets flagged to recruiters that are using this feature. So it is worth doing that. Is anyone have any more questions? I think that if I've missed any in the chat, feel free to just send it again because there was quite a lot of messages coming in there. Also, I should say, feel free, like the people here, feel free to like send your LinkedIn to the chat, and people can connect or connect with me or sort of any of the speakers or anything. I'm sure lots of us will be happy to like connect and answer any more questions if you don't want to message in the chat right now.
Okay, small LinkedIn tip again. I just saw Christina's profile and it came to my mind. You can actually edit your profile name in that link. So it looks really much better when you like have it as say Apurv-Mishra or Christina-McLeod compared to like random string of numbers. So consider doing that. It's like easy for you to remember and just like gives a better impression, to be honest. So it's a feature that's not really seen, like it's not like completely obvious to everyone, bad UX design and everything, but it's there. You just go into settings and change it.
Okay, it's your last chance to ask any questions. So you also, whether you can unmute yourself and ask questions if you want to. Yeah, so I'll leave it open for a little minute more in case anyone has any last questions. And I know there's quite a lot of information in the chat. You can download it, just in case anyone doesn't know. You can download the chat and you can like look back on it if you want to keep people's links or anything. So if you go into the chat, it's like next to the thing that says file. You can download it. So it's worth doing that if you do want to keep track of all of this. So this question is saying, do the university usually provide good internships internally? I know there's quite a lot of opportunities available, but I've never done one. I don't know if anyone here has done one.
I have not done one personally, but I know a couple of people who did this summer, especially with companies having to cancel internships. And the university had a couple about Learn specifically, and I think they do have a good track record of a wide range of different internships, which is really great. And they also take people from different years. So if you're in first or second year, you can still apply as long as you have, experience from, you know, like personal projects or other skills that you just learned in university. And they like have loads of different types, like I mentioned, from various different schools for STEM and non-STEM subjects. So that could be a really good way to get some experience if you are from a non-STEM subject but want to work into STEM.
Also, I'm just going to add, so this past summer, I also did research with a professor at the university. I'm part of like the rocketry team, and there were 3 different internships offered. So sometimes, like, I know our professors who oversee the rocketry team, they're really engaged with us and they really want to help us succeed. So if you're interested in like gaining research experience, it definitely is possible, especially if you go through like the rocketry team or a lot of the other kind of design and build teams if you're like in engineering and stuff, and those are quite good. And yeah, it's really great experience, especially if you want to do a master's program or if you want to learn about research.
The kind of a follow-up question to that there, Christina. So how did you get research experience to contact professors directly?
Yeah, so for us, our team lead, he just worked out like a deal with the professor. So we found some like things for the rocketry team that we needed to look into further and contacted just our supervisors. I'm afraid I don't have like too much information on that. But also, I'm pretty sure it might be worth, if you're interested in like a certain professor in their research area, just like emailing them about it and asking if they have any opportunities or anything that they know of, or if you could work with them or just gain some kind of research experience. I know that professors generally like really want to help us out, and they're also very excited to see more keen students.
Yeah, similarly, I know a couple of people who did this. Like they just looked at the professor's research interests, emailed the professor about why they are interested in this field, and if they had any positions open and if they could contribute anyway. I think for one of them, it started as like a unpaid project during the semester, and then the professor made him like a paid intern during the summer, and he continues to work with them. So it's certainly possible. Just build relationships with people. That's what networking is. Just talk to them, and if you don't ask, you will never get anything. So don't be afraid to ask for anything. Be shameless in internships. Ask questions to every people, because that's what you're doing. You're learning. So be shameless. Be demanding. Sort of ask questions. Ask people for favors. That's what we are going to do if you need to succeed.
So there is another follow-up question there asking if they take second-year students at all. Does anybody know much about that?
The university internships take only second year students, the ones that are posted by the university. So they're only open to, most of them are only open to second year students. The professors, I have seen like first year students becoming research sort of assistants with the professors. Second years, definitely I've seen a lot of them. So yeah, depending on what you're studying, I'm talking with from an informatics perspective, but I have known informatics students ended up going and working in with professors in humanities, and because the labs always need some kind of programming experience. So yeah, it's worth trying out different places, and if you're first and second year, it's a good shout to get a job.
Thanks for that. Yeah, so any more questions? We call it day.
Can I just add really quickly about my Commons internship? Just to let you guys know, I was in second year when I applied for that. And I know at the time, a lot of people were like, oh, you're not going to get that, or, you know, don't get your hopes up and stuff. And yeah, I don't think it's good to get your hopes up, but also if there's something that says open to everyone, and you're like eligible to apply for it, just like apply. You never know what could happen. I didn't think I was going to get it just because I didn't have quite as much experience. I'd only had like a year and a half at university. But yeah, if you're interested in something, go for it. And yeah, good luck applying.
I think your last bit got cut off there. Yeah, so unless I have no time with questions, I think we'll call it that. We're 15 minutes over it already. But yeah, good luck and apply to as much as you can. if you have any questions, just get in touch with, you can get in touch with Women in STEM and we'll try and connect you to any of the speakers if there's a specific question you have, or yeah, look on LinkedIn or anything. But yeah, just you kind of need to take a leap of faith and apply for things. And don't think that all of us that got internships got it immediately. We've all applied to lots and lots of different things. So it does take time, it does take quite a bit of effort, but if you like stick to it, you'll get there. And yeah, so good luck, and hope you have a nice evening, everyone.